Hey everyone, you're watching We Had That, and today I'm going to talk about my top 10 favorite vintage 8-inch Mego World's Greatest Superheroes. But before we get started, it would really help my channel if you would click like and subscribe. Starting in 1972 and lasting about a decade, the Mego Toy Company released the World's Greatest Superheroes line of 8-inch action figures. This phenomenal series of toys gave thousands of kids in the 70s their first opportunity to own figures of their favorite Marvel and DC characters. In total, there were 37 figures in the World's Greatest Superheroes line if you count the Secret Identities figures of Clark Kent, Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson, and Peter Parker. They all had a certain campiness about them, but to me, that's part of what gives them their charm. Here's my list of my top 10 vintage World's Greatest Superheroes action figures. Number 10, the Riddler. Although he's at the bottom of my top 10 list, I had to include the Riddler. He's always been one of my favorite villains, and I really love the head sculpt on this guy. It might not be exactly accurate to the way that he looked in the comics, and Mego is certainly in no danger of being sued by Frank Gorshin, the actor who played the Riddler on the 1966 Batman TV show. But I feel like Mego really captured the feel of this character. I'm also glad they went with the jumpsuit costume over the suit and tie. That's the costume I've always preferred on the Riddler. Number 9, Thor. There was a little bit of goofiness to the way that Mego superheroes looked, and I think they balanced that line perfectly with Thor. Mego was able to take the basic elements of Thor and translate him into an action figure without creating a whole lot of detail. Because Thor was one of the later releases in the line, they spent a little extra money on the figure by giving him his hammer. The hammer's such an integral part of Thor's character that it would have been missed if they'd left it out. Also, Thor had a great head sculpt. Mego could have cut corners by giving Thor molded-on hair and a molded-on helmet, but I'm definitely glad they gave him rooted hair and a removable helmet instead. Plus, as a little kid, my first poster that I ever had hanging on my wall was this poster of Thor, so there's also an added nostalgia with the God of Thunder. Number 8, the Lizard. This guy could have been higher up on my list if the head sculpt were just a little bit better. I love the outfit, and I'm glad that Mego gave him a separate lab coat. Mego was notorious for doing things to make the figures cheaper, so it was nice that they spent the extra money to do little things like giving the lab coat pocket flaps and giving the lizard a tail. But the real surprise here is that they even went out of their way to give him unique hands and feet. The lizard was the only Mego to have a fist. Although I think Mego could have done a better job on the head sculpt, they really nailed everything else on this figure. Number 7, Iron Man. Some people don't like the sculpt on Iron Man's head, but I think it's pretty cool, and I absolutely love his gloves. When you're making a suit that's supposed to be metal out of fabric, it's going to be tough to nail the look, but the team who designed this costume did an awesome job and gave us a brightly colored Iron Man that looks great. There's been speculation for years that Mego was laying the foundation for making a Dr. Doom with this head and these gloves, and maybe even the boots. Although I used some of the boots from Mego's World's Greatest Super Knights line on this custom of Dr. Doom that I made many, many years ago. It would have made sense for Mego to have considered Doom too, since we did get the Fantastic Four. Anyway, the unique pieces all around on Iron Man show that Mego was willing to go the extra mile for old Shellhead. Number 6, Batman. Okay, I'll admit, there are some design flaws on Batman. The oven mitt style gloves were awful, but I would imagine most kids lost those within the first week of owning this figure anyway. Aside from the gloves, I think Mego walked the line between campy and cool pretty well with this figure. There's a touch of an Adam West smile with this guy. Plus, it's Batman. I realize I'm throwing out a bit of objectivity by putting this guy so high up on my list, but despite his awkwardness, I really do feel like this is an awesome action figure. Considering he was available for the entire run of the World's Greatest Superheroes line, I can't be the only person who loved this toy. In fact, in the 1990s and early 2000s, when I was buying Megos by the lot to try to complete my collection, Batman was one of the most common figures included, along with Spock from Star Trek. At one point, I realized I had so many that I took this photo of all my Mego Batman figures. If nothing else, he certainly sold well. Number 5, Superman. Like Batman, Superman was another key figure in the world's greatest superheroes line. He was available from the beginning in 1972 until Mego stopped production on the line a decade later in 1982. His head sculpt may not have been perfect, and his belt was a little bit too wide, but for me, the Mego Superman was more than just an action figure. He was an icon of toys in the early 1970s. Compared to many of his 8-inch counterparts, Mego actually did a respectable job of bringing the Man of Steel to life with this classic character. Number 4, Green Arrow. Mego went all out on several Marvel characters, but Green Arrow is the only 8-inch DC character that truly shows what Mego could do with this format. His hat, his quiver, and his bow were all very cool, although honestly, the bowstring and quiver straps don't hold up well to the rigors of play. Mego offered a better solution to the glove problem with Green Arrow too. Possibly so that he could hold his bow, Mego used green hands and cloth cuffs to imply gloves on the Emerald Archer rather than giving him oven mitts like Batman. Not only did it look a lot better, but it was also much more practical for an action figure. These design improvements helped push Green Arrow up to number 4 on my list. But it doesn't hurt that I was a big fan of his as a kid, and I didn't own the figure until I was an adult. This is definitely one of the sharpest looking Mego superheroes in the entire line. Number 3, Green Goblin. Despite not owning one as a kid, Green Goblin has always been one of my favorite Megos. I remember looking at the ads in the old comic books that I would find at the secondhand stores and seeing all of the characters that I never had. The Green Goblin stood out from the rest, even in those roughly drawn ads. Maybe not this ad. When I saw one in person, it had been given to a friend of mine by his older brother when he had outgrown Megos, and that sealed it for me. There's so much personality in the head sculpt, and I love the outfit. Plus, he actually came with his satchel, which Mego easily could have left out. The paint on his face was subtle, but the accents made the figure look amazing. The colors definitely stand out on the shelf when you have this figure on display. I wish he had come with his Goblin glider or even a pumpkin bomb, but I understand that that would have been too expensive to include, especially considering he already had the satchel as an accessory. However, the missing Goblin glider and pumpkin bombs are probably my biggest complaint about the figure. Aside from that, I don't think I'd change anything about this guy. Number 2, the Joker. Really? I know there are flaws with this figure, and it may come as a surprise that I have him all the way up in the number 2 slot on my list, but I feel like no other figure in this line did a better job of capturing the personality of the character than the Clown Prince of Crime. This head sculpt is just amazing. The bright and colorful outfit is the perfect mix of the 1966 Batman TV show and the Joker from the 1970s comic books. In my opinion, Mego did an awesome job of delivering a Joker action figure that embraced the campiness of some versions of the character while also hinting at the maniacal nature of Batman's number 1 adversary. Number 1, Spider-Man. I've read that Spidey was the best-selling character in the world's greatest superhero line, and judging from the number of Spider-Man Megos I've seen over the years, I don't doubt it. While Batman and Superman were unquestionably cornerstone characters, our favorite wall crawler seemed like a perfect fit for this colorful, campy toy line. You've got to have a sense of humor to run around fighting bad guys in your pajamas, and boy did Spider-Man have a sense of humor. As an added bonus, and unlike every other figure on this list, Spider-Man didn't come with any accessories or any extra costume pieces to lose. No weapons, no coat, no belt, no shoes, not even a sticker on his chest. So even after years of play, kids were likely to still have a complete Spider-Man. He may have had runs in his suit or holes in his heels, but he was still complete and ready for action. Well, there you have it. That's my top 10 list of Mego's world's greatest superheroes. How does my top 10 list compare with yours? What did I leave out? Who should I have left out? Tell me in the comments below. Also, please give this video a like and share it on social media. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notifications bell so that you'll be notified when I post new videos. And one last thing, if you're a fan of toys, you should know about ToyLanta, the biggest toy show in the southeastern United States, held just north of Atlanta, Georgia. Visit ToyLanta.com for more information. As always, thanks for watching.